It's one of the biggest tunes of the 80s, and it's got an opening lick that's recognizable anywhere on the globe. But why should we still care about this tune over 40 years later? Let's talk about that. Hey kids, it's your good buddy, Uncle Ben. Over my many years as a guitar teacher and touring musician, I've learned thousands of songs, and they've all taught me something that stuck with me and helped me along the way. Mastering tunes makes us better players, and that's why every guitarist should learn Rebel Yell by Billy Idol, featuring the amazing Steve Stevens on guitar. Hey there kids, it's your good buddy Uncle Ben, and on today's video, we're going to be taking a look under the hood of one of the most iconic songs of Billy Idol's career. It's got some amazing guitar work in it, courtesy of Steve Stevens, and actually a lot more complexity than I initially thought. There's awesome stuff any player can learn from this tune, and if you want to get even mo out of this video, I recommend checking out my Patreon page over at patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. That's where you're going to find the super extended and ad-free cut of this video, as well as hundreds of exclusive posts, downloadable tabs, backing tracks, and so much more for as little money as $1 a month. So don't delay, sign up today, and I'll see you guys over there at patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. Gear-wise for today's video, I've still got this amazing Iconic Guitars Solana on loan, so I might as well mash on it. And I'm playing that through the Friedman JEL 50. Yeah, let's get into it. It only makes sense to start off by talking about that awesome opening figure. Now, live, Steve will play it on one guitar, like this. But on the record, it sounds to me like we've got two layers of guitars. One just doing the top string thing, and the other one playing the bass line on the bottom. It's great to learn that riff because it's going to help you with your finger independence on both arm hands, because there's kind of a lot going on there. I don't recommend approaching this thinking about it like two separate things, like you're playing a bass line that goes like this with your thumb, while you're doing this chirpy thing on top with your other fingers. That's a little too pat your head, rub your stomach at the same time, you know what I mean? I prefer just to think of it as how the three fingers are sometimes working together and just kind of pinching together like a claw, and other times it's just the top two fingers on top. Just the way your mother likes it. Think about it as being like a group of three where you start off by pinching all the fingers together and then just play the top strings. 1, 2, 3, right? 1, 2, 3. Do that again for the next part. 1, 2, 3. And then for the last part, just think about doing two pinches. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. That's followed by this great riff that features some single string and power chord stuff in it. This is a really great one to help you get that all downstroke James Hetfield style stuff down. Let's check it out. Make sure as you're doing those downstrokes to think about them as outstrokes, as I like to say. In other words, the pick isn't going straight down like this every time, but rather kind of swatting away at the top of the string like this. Take a look at the difference. Here's what a literal downstroke would look like. You can see how I'm kind of colliding with the A string there. This is clumsy because every time you do one of those downstrokes, you got to get out of the strings to reload and get above the string before you can do another one. With these outstrokes, it's a lot easier because it's a more straight line path. I know a lot of you metal guys will think of that as like the dime bag harmonic thing, right? But dudes have been doing this forever, and it sounds awesome in that tune whenever Steve does it. Now, whenever you're doing these, you got to be really careful about your muting. You guys might have noticed how much my left hand was doing right there. So like that harmonic, you're going to get it by starting off with your bar already kind of dipped down a little bit, so you're slacking the string. See that? That makes them a little bit looser, which makes it easier to get this harmonic to sound out. Grab like the 9th fret G and slowly let the bar up like this. So I'm depressing the bar, picking that 9th G harmonic, and slowly letting it up. And of course, once you reach the top pitch, you can give it some more dips to get that big ass vibrato going on. But as you're dropping the tension on the strings and then bringing them back to pitch, it kind of tends to auto strum those strings, in other words. It just makes them vibrate, you know? So if you're not careful, that harmonic, which is really delicate, can get drowned out by any extraneous string noise, like this. Hear that? You could hear like the E and stuff behind it, even though I didn't pick the E. So using your thumb and the free fingers on your fretting hand, just lightly dampen everything but the G string, and you're gonna get this really nice and clean sounding. But just be sure to leave that G string undampened, just the way your mother doesn't like it. Now, if your guitar is a little deficient in the kickstand department, you can still make this squeal happen if you know what you're doing. Check this out, because I know a lot of times Steve is playing those like Nags, Les Paul style guitars live, you know, and he still does a squeal here. What I like to do is I'll grab the A note on the G string and I'll hit it with a pinch harmonic and quickly bend it up to B and then back down like that. Did you hear that? And then I'll slowly bring the bend up to pitch. Now, I'm getting a really high-pitched squeal right there, right? Some of you guys might have noticed what's going on here with my picking hand. I have a whole video about how to do this technique, but it gives you the craziest sounding pinch harmonics ever. Check this out. They're so high-pitched and so clear. And I'm doing that by kind of wedging the string right there in the karate chop portion of my hand, right at the base of my little finger and the top of my palm. There's that little tiny crease. I put the string right in that crease and I hit it with an upstroke. It kind of effectively mutes out all the other strings and just gets you this super clear, piercing high harmonic. Now let's talk about those awesome chords that Steve does during the verse, because I see a lot of people playing this and it's not exactly like what Steve is doing. This is one of those tunes that has a lot of, I don't know, bar band versions of it, where somebody will play it and it's like, yeah, it's recognizable, but it's not actually what was played on the record. For example, I hear a lot of people playing the verses like this. It sounds really big and it sounds full when you're playing it by yourself, but that's actually not what Steve is playing. Instead of playing big power chords like that, he's staying out of the way of the bass line and the vocal by playing these little chord stabs up top. Check him out, and then we'll talk about the cool chord harmony going on behind all this stuff. The cool thing to notice here is how each of those chord grips that he uses features that high F sharp note on top. That pedal tone really ties all the chords together, like the Big Lebowski's rug. But it's really interesting because those chords don't necessarily make sense with the bass line if you're thinking about this in really typical rock guitar harmony. Because the chord progression sounds like B minor, A, G, E minor, but these chord grips aren't really that at all. And again, when you think about what these mean with the bass lines behind them, it gets pretty complex actually. So with that B power chord that he's playing against a B bass note, it just sounds like a big B power chord, typical rock stuff. When the bass goes to A and he's playing that D grip, you could think about this two different ways. You could think of it as being like a D chord, but with its fifth, the A in the bass. That's not all that uncommon. Or you could think of this as sounding like A is the root note, which makes this root, which makes this a fourth, which makes this a six. So it's like a root 11-6 chord. That's really unusual sounding. And then this guy against the G bass note, let's see if I can do this here. Sounds like a big jazzy G major 7. And then whenever it changes to E in the bass, he's still playing that same grip. Isn't that a cool kind of E minor voicing? If you're thinking of E as the root note, you've got a flat third, you've got a flat 7, and you've got a 9th on there, the German interval, the 9. Gives us a cool E minor 7 add 9 sound. Kind of John Sykesy. I obviously love that. Now when we get to the chorus of the song, we've got some more 2-guitar action. Sounds like he recorded one layer that's just doing some big sustained power chords like this. And the other guitar is playing around more with the chord voicings that he used in the verse, because it is the same progression. Sounds something like this. Prerequisite pick scrape. We can't talk about the solo of this song without mentioning the awesome ray gun sound effect thing that he does in there. Check this out. He's taken an old toy laser gun that has a speaker mounted on the left side and just pressing that right in front of the bridge pickup of his guitar. Because a lot of people don't think about it this way, but your pickups are just kind of like microphones for your strings. I don't have a toy laser gun, but I do have some laser gun sound effects pulled up here on the YouTube on my phone. And I can just put one of the speakers of my phone right up to the pickup of the guitar, and you'll be able to hear some pretty awful noise coming through. Check it out. Sorry, wrong video. Actually, the magnets from your pickups will detect signal from a variety of different things, including some implements from your stepmom's boudoir. But you could also use like remote controls, like this one I have here for my TV. Check it out. If I turn the volume up and I point the remote directly at the pickup, I think I'm Tom Morello now. Or you can go full Eddie Van Halen and get out the power drill and do it that way. I actually first learned about this stuff not from Steve Stevens, but from the incredible and massively underrated Matthias Eklund of the band Freak Kitchen. One of my favorite players ever. He uses all kinds of stuff with his guitars. Check him out sometime. And the rest of the solo has just some classic guitar stuff in it, man. Licks that have been around since Chuck Berry was riding dinosaurs, right? Starting off with those double stop bends. You know, just tasty guitar stuff, raunchy guitar licks. Whenever you're doing those Chuck Berry kind of licks, you know, the thing where you bend the G up and then double stop on the top 2 strings, it's really important with the first finger here to have it positioned in such a way that the G is always coming back and kind of smacking the tip of the finger like that. Because if you don't fret it that way, whenever you release that G bend, it'll kind of twang out on you like this, which is not the sound that we're looking for here. It's also worth noting too that there's a lot of licks in here that don't necessarily make sense from a traditional music theory kind of standpoint. Like those weird licks he plays against the A. It sounds something like this. Like, what is that? Against the A. It's like root, flat 9. That's really nasty sounding. An 11th. And then a bend up to the root. It just kind of goes to show you, if you start off on a good sounding note like your root, you end on the root, whatever happens in between kind of sounds fine as long as you land on your feet, right? I love too that he gets kind of riffy in the middle of the solo with these chromatic licks that jump up in octaves. Something like that. He does some kind of like tappy thing at the end that's really cool. But you can see how he's taking that one lick and just jumping octaves with it. Learning licks like that will help you learn how to find that root note in a variety of different locations by visualizing those octave blocks moving across the neck. So during the bridge of the song, it drops out to bass and drums and what sounds like keyboard, but it might be like a really heavily processed guitar, or maybe both, I'm not really sure. Either way, whenever they play this song live, I see Steve playing those parts on guitar, and they sound really cool and have some neat ideas in them. Check this part out. So he plays a couple of notes as a melody. And then what you hear after that is just two different arpeggios. It's a D arpeggio and an A arpeggio. D, A. Once again, kind of like the verse parts of the song, he's using these chord triads, these arpeggios, even though they don't necessarily agree with the bass line of the song. It's cool to me to see the way that you can bend the rules like that and still end up with something that sounds really awesome and memorable, like that bridge section of the song. Now here on YouTube, you can find the isolated guitar track for the song. And as I was going through it, I came across this weird overdub that's on the last chorus of the song. Kind of reminds me of that part from like Phantom of the Opera. So I've kind of been calling it Phantom of the Double Stopera. Sounds like this. But once again, if you look at what the bass is saying over it, it makes some really interesting sounds. So over the first B bass note, you end up hearing this. That's cool. Up here on the top, that sounds like B minor 7 because you got root on the bass, flat 7, and flat 3rd. And it gives you that B minor 7 sound. And then whenever it walks down here to the 4th position, that's just a B power chord, root, 5th, root. Now whenever it moves to A, it sounds like this. That's cool. It's kind of an A sus sound, A sus 4. Because against A, you're hearing root and 4th or 11th. And then whenever it moves down, it's met with the G bass note, where it sounds like G major 7. Again, these cool, like jazzy sounding chords he's putting in this rock tune. Root, 7, 3rd, G major 7. And then briefly for a second, you hear the E note behind that too. That's pretty cool. Root, 9th, 5th. Gives you like a E sus 2 sound, you know? Really cool to hear how those double stops, which seem so insignificant, end up working with that bass note and creating something really big sounding. I don't care what kind of music you like to play, that's really cool stuff. So there you go guys, a look at why we should all be learning this iconic tune from Billy Idol featuring the amazing Steve Stevens. What an awesome guitar player, and he's got great stuff on all those songs. Eyes Without a Face is really cool. So many cool moments in that guy's career. Let me know what your favorite Steve Stevens moment is down in the comment section below. He's also got some really rad like flamenco records, like that Flamenco A Go-Go album. I remember that was one my good buddy and early influence Eric Reason showed me back in the day. And it's really fun. It's got some cool stuff. And he's got a great solo career too. So be sure to check all that stuff out. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you want to get access to the super extended cut with 0 ads, plus access to hundreds of exclusive posts, videos, and more, be sure to check out that Patreon page over at patreon.com/BenEllerGuitars. And let me know down in the comments section a song that you think every guitar player should learn. Well guys, it's been fun as always, but now it's time to get away from this thing and start hacking this video down for you guys. As for you, I recommend getting away from the computer machine, grabbing that guitar, and getting a mashing on it. Less clicking, more picking.